Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. I am Matt, your game master for the evening, as I am all evenings. Well, some of them. Anyway, most of them at the moment. I'm babbling. Let's move on. We're here to play Symbaroum. It's a dark fantasy role-playing game from Fria Ligan. We've been playing it for a good while now, and we hope to play it for a good while longer. Before I get started, let's introduce our stream manager, John, who takes care of many, many things behind the scenes, moving around cameras, moving around images, wielding the band hammer, and generally being the dog's body for the entire group in a polite and way that makes sure you're appearing and equal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Polite.
Yeah, sure. So John will be monkeying away behind the scenes, and we thank him for it thoroughly. Now be gone. So down below... Down below, we have lots of links for you to peruse, should you wish to. We've got links to our social media, which is usually, but not always, Telling Tales RP. We've got links over to our YouTube, where all the VODs from our streams are stored. And we've also got a link to our Patreon, should you wish to support us. And new now, we have a link to our Discord. We've recently opened the gates so that the general filthy public like you can come flooding in. So do so and talk to us about RPGs, about telling tales. That's probably it, though. You know, don't start dropping your personal details on there, or start telling us what you think about Dostoevsky or whatever, because we're not intellectually capable of handling that. So, without any further ado, let's bring on our first player for the evening. And our first player is Sam, who plays Ascarai, our changeling ranger. And Sam is going to tell us all about how last week started. Recap us, Sam.
So we started off heading upwards. We were trying to get to the Sun Temple as kind of a safer way home after we got stuck in the middle of Davakar. But on our way there, we came across a very big, naked, muscly barbarian man who turned out to be called Vikama. And two of his... He was traveling with two other people, another barbarian called Gadraban and an Ambrian, I think, called Relnara. And they basically told us there's a whole fight / war / kind of... There's a kerfuffle going on by the Sun Temple. Do not head that way. It'll be bad. So
it is definitely what you technically refer to as a kerfuffle.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I want to use the right technical language for these types of things. So the younger one of them, Gadraban, kind of let it slip that they were heading south to go and loot a ruin that they'd heard about, and basically invited us to come along. More hands, more good loot from the ruin, hopefully less dead people. So we basically went with them, as it seemed a better option than heading into the horrible kerfuffle.
Sure. I think the main motivation for them was just the traveling in safety, as it were. But yes, absolutely. So then you stumbled across one ruin, not the one that they were traveling towards, but still one along your path. And to talk about this ruin, let's bring on Mike, who plays Anton. He's our resident Theurg, holy man, mystic, horribly corrupt being. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
Yeah, feeling just as corrupt as Anton. And to recap where we were, we stumbled across this big clearing, and in the middle of it was sort of like a collapsed half ruined temple. We decided that we wanted to investigate it. And we did so. We sort of found our way inside this temple and did a bit of exploring in the first chamber of it. We discovered a few things. Found a bit of paper that suggested that this was visited 10 years ago by a party who thought they were somewhere else, and they weren't. So they thought they were perhaps somewhere a little bit safer than this place. And
if only we knew who that party was.
What a mystery.
What a mystery. And to elucidate on that mystery and to finish off the recap, let's bring on Chris, our final party member. Chris plays Steo, a sturdy and cynical town guard / mercenary / veteran. Take it away, Chris.
So we cased the joint, as I believe the normal tomb raiding parlance goes, and eventually made our way inside to a ruinous place that had once been filled with some machinery of significant complexity, now smashed to pieces, and just a floor full of corpses, which is pretty much a standard feature of these games at this stage. And we began to look around. I spotted a small piece of paper on the floor and thought I'd best pick up and read this. And I know it was probably coincidental, but it did seem that triggered like 4 or 5 Griblies rising up with boar skulls across their heads and bones stapled and wrapped to their decaying limbs. And we all got into a jolly good fight. Everyone acquitted themselves rather well. The large barbarian, whose name has escapes me at the moment,
Vicimer,
was an absolute flesh chainsaw, much like the dearly departed Ephanea. And yes, so they were fighting with poison, which was really pretty nasty, and we took a few hits of it and ended up not in a good state. But pulled through, we did.
Yeah, they had kind of acidic blood, if you can imagine such a thing from certainly not from a franchise other than this one. But you acquitted yourselves well. You hacked them to pieces, and then found further remains. A giant, now completely fleshless, bone skeleton boar. And the remains of a knight of Ambria who had struck it down but died in return. Again, who knows who those people could have been? You certainly wouldn't find out by watching our very first prologue episode. Hint. So, yeah. Not now. Watch this. But there we go. You are left in the remains of this ruin. The bodies of your foes scattered around you, along with skeletons of people long gone. And ahead of you, you have this pile of bones that was the boar and the Ambrian knight. And behind that, in this pit in the center of the chamber, there is a large, round stone doorway with a door in it. Just so you don't think you can walk straight through. So with that in mind, I think we're good to go. So your companions, the 2 barbarians and the Ambrian, Vicimer, Gadraban, and Relnara, are kind of like gathered around where you've tossed this torch down to look at this chamber below with the skeletons and the doorway. And Vicimer is definitely taking great interest in kind of looking around for a way to get down there.
Suppose I'll go and de-rig that rope we left outside. That might help us get down.
It's certainly good.
I'll chomp my way outside, and still probably quite limpy from the baiting I took, but I will head out and recover that rope.
None of you are kind of horribly damaged, aren't you? I mean, physically.
Been better, but not awful.
Spiritually, Anton is probably feeling it a bit. What's your corruption at now?
8 in total.
But that, I believe, temporary corruption goes away at the end of a scene. I believe. So what's your permanent corruption?
5.
Okay.
Which is also, a scary number.
Yeah, it basically means it's a terrible risk for you to cast even one of your Theurg abilities.
And you have a stigma at the moment, then, or did you?
I think
I've got the sunburn.
Yeah, the horrible sunburn that Anton first showed, first suffered in the Tomb of Dying Dreams, but now it's back. Yes, that stays for a day. So,
had we actually read the notes that Steo picked up?
You'd certainly looked at the map. There wasn't any kind of massive details on it, but what it gave you was a map of the area with the relatively safe earth towers of the Black Leech Rift, which is a notorious set of ruins in Davokar, and it was placed on the wrong side of the river. So you think that this party thought they were at the Black Leech Rift, but really they were at this unexplored, highly dangerous ruin. Again, if only we knew the story of how that happened and what happened there. If only we could go back with a few clicks and watch it. Not now.
So I'll return unless something bad happens to me outside. I'll return with the rope.
Nothing bad happens to you outside. You can kind of pull down the rope, and Relnara was hanging around back there, and kind of takes it down with you. And as you go in, you see ahead of you at the pit at the center, you see Vikama just kind of like he's handed his axe to Gadraban, and he just goes whoop, and just jumps down.
Flipping Northerners! Oh my god!
There's kind of a slight crash as he scatters some bones down there, and then he calls out something, a word you don't recognize, maybe a word for axe, and Gadraban kind of rather gingerly drops this huge two-handed axe down to him. But he looks quite relieved when you come over with the rope for getting down there.
I'll try and. Is there a way to rig up like something I could make it fast to?
Easily, there's columns all along the room, and you can rig up a rope down there to get down there a bit more safely.
I'll do a sinkhole special, but this time maybe we'll use it.
Absolutely,
not bitter about
sinkhole
that still.
Special. What's the general feel here? Who's climbing down into this pit to examine this door, and who is staying up top?
While he's doing this rope, can I just go and investigate some of the passages that lead off this room?
You absolutely can. Yes. Tell me how you're investigating them. These are the deep dark kind of slender passageways leading off the main chamber, which the horrible Blightborn boar human creatures came out of. A few of them while you were fighting.
Well, I think I have another torch of my own in my like traveling equipment stuff, so I'll probably light that and just head down. Pick a random direction, maybe the right-hand passage, and just head down.
Sure.
And see what I reach.
Well, the first thing that occurs to you as you start walking down them is the absolute stink. A stink of rotten meat, of excrement and waste, and just general filth that assails you when you're just a few paces down there. Otherwise, do you want to give me a vigilant roll, maybe with a -2, because it's quite dark, even quite soon once you're in those passageways.
Okay, I'll need a 13. I got a 17, so I don't make it.
Okay, yeah, you're not picking up anything for what might be further in here, or where it might be leading. The only real way to tell is to proceed more.
I'll proceed. I don't know how far this will go. I won't go for like miles, but I'll head down, a short distance and just see if I encounter, if it leads on to any rooms or anything like that.
Sure. You walk kind of maybe 20 feet more forward, and you reach a point, like it's quite dark around you now. You can obviously see behind you, and you have the torch to see with. But you come to basically a corridor running across the end of this one, and a wall, and just even a quick peek around seems to be a corridor that effectively like is running round the side of the chamber from which each of the individual passageways come off towards the main one. Like one thing. You can see you can see just in the kind of far not distance, but kind of like towards the edge of the room to your right, towards the entrance of the main large chamber, this corridor seems to just come to a dead halt. And to your left, it seems to like carry on down towards the back of the main chamber and then move round to the left. Perhaps it's just one. That would be your gut instinct that it's one long corridor that goes around like an upside down U. Yeah. Right. The other thing that you realize as soon as you get this far, your boots start squelching underfoot quite quickly, and even a slight glance down reveals, well, what you smelled: rotting meat and human waste.
Nasty. I was thinking about heading round to just confirm that it leads all the way around, but perhaps not. Perhaps I'll just be satisfied that it doesn't lead anywhere particularly interesting. I don't want to be here any longer. I will just turn around and head back to the room. Maybe try and wipe my boots off as I get to a slightly cleaner part of the...
That certainly seems like the sanitary option. So I believe, Steo, you're clambering down this rope, yes?
I was going to try and convince Anton to go first, given that there's probably something on this door that needs a translation. He's the bookman.
That's a fair guess. Anton, what have you been doing anything in this interim time, and what do you want to do?
Probably helping people like pass things down if other people are sort of climbing down the hole, or like holding a torch so that they can see. Just trying to be helpful. And I'll take Steo's lead when he sort of looks pointedly down and indicates that it's my turn to go. So I'll I'll shimmy down the rope.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I don't need to roll for that.
No, you don't. You don't need to roll for clambering down. It's it's not even a sheer surface. It's like a sort of sharp slope of rubble and debris, and with the rope as well, you can navigate it fairly safely. You reach the bottom, you can see the huge ribs. Those ribs of the boar. Once you're down here, this thing was huge, and obviously the body of the Ambrian knight in there. Vikama is also down there because he jumped down, and he is kind of over by the door, sort of moving around it and just kind of tapping it a bit with the edge, with the edge of his axe, kind of seems like he's listening out maybe for an echo or some kind of maybe seeing where the mechanism is or something like that.
Has Ascarai returned to the main chamber yet?
I think Ascarai's still off for a minute or so yet.
Okay, I'm concerned about him, but I do want to, at the next available opportunity, go and investigate the knight. Sure.
I'll say also that Relnara, the kind of Ambrian ranger, is maybe over by where Ascarai has walked into the passageway and is just kind of keeping an eye on being able to see the torch.
I'll go ahead and dangle my way down and go and give this knight a look over. Obviously, military person.
Wearing garb that you'd definitely equate with kind of minor Ambrian nobility, and a sword to match, kind of a long sword that looks kind of quality made but not ostentatious. There's nothing else really to tell. This person has been dead for a decade or more.
Okay, I'll kind of. I'm busy myself there, kind of looking around and trying to identify. But let's move on, and I'll come back.
Well, you know what? Give me a vigilant roll, and seeing as you're specifically looking for it, I'll give you a +2 on that as well, Christopher.
I need an 11. I got a 13.
There we go. You can't see any particular way of identifying this individual.
I'm going to make my way over to the door and join Vikama in sort of investigating it. And are there any carvings on it? Any sort of notable runes, markings? Any hints of a mechanism or something?
Sure. It looks like that a long time ago there were markings. That the door itself, it's not like a kind of it's. If I describe it as a cog, but with no space between the cogs, does that make any sense? So it's like a round doorway with kind of notches as if they were cogs around the edge, forming kind of like squarish or rectangular-ish areas, but there's no actual separation between the spokes of the cog, as it were. And on each of these, it looks like at some point in the past, there was some kind of rune or word or something like that carved on it in a Symbaric tongue, but long gone to the ages. You can just see the occasional kind of notch and scratch.
Is there anything else of note in this chamber? Any other?
Well, why don't we give you a vigilant roll for that?
I make it. I needed 13. I rolled a 7.
Okay, you kind of look around the place. The one side of the chamber, kind of the side of the chamber where you came in, is obviously collapsed because the entire roof has come down and formed that kind of scree of debris. And obviously there's the big, boar skeleton and the skeleton of the knight. The only other thing you find, and it fills you with a certain foreboding based on one of the bodies you found above, there is like an almost indistinguishable a slice or kind of vent in the ground just before the large round door.
Okay. I'm going to call out to Vikama and sort of point that out to him. Be careful. This room may be rigged, may be dangerous.
Vikama kind of like glances down and leans down and then like taps his axe on the outside of that vent and says, and kind of goes, "Good eyes, priest."
And
he's still doing the stuff on the door, but he's stood to the side of it now, like
okay,
to kind of not be above that.
I was going to say, is there quite an obvious arc where like something may come out of there? Or
yeah, sure. If it's a long, thin kind of like gap in the floor, presumably something comes out from that, and it stretches kind of most of the way along that round door, but not all the way. So he's kind of like stood at the sides now and kind of examining around the sides, but trying to stay clear of that vent or gap in the floor.
Sure.
Asker, I think we can safely say you've come out of that side passage by now.
Okay. One thing I would ask, I find it strange that there are like two barbarians and an Ambrian investigating ruins together. I know that.
Not really.
Okay. I just know that barbarians kind of tend to leave them alone, but I guess there's enough that don't.
There certainly are enough that don't, and there are plenty of barbarians who've taken up that kind of occupation in Thistlehold and the like. These two barbarians, you've already kind of determined that they are Odavs, the same clan as the late Ephenea. And Odavs are noted for probably being the clan who work closest with Ambrians, and therefore who have developed kind of moved forward with maybe a less respectful attitude to Davokar than other clans still maintain. So it doesn't entirely surprise you now.
Okay, fair enough. I will probably head down into this room by the rope if everyone else is down there.
Sure. Well, Gadraban is staying above. He seems to be kind of like, staying by the rope. And Rolnara as well seems to be just kind of pacing around and occasionally going near the doorway, as in the overall doorway to the ruin, and peering out, just making sure that no one or nothing is creeping up on you.
I might say to Rolnara, seems like this passage just leads around the outside of the room. I couldn't seem to lead anywhere, but it's horrible down there. I didn't investigate fully.
She grunts and says, "Maybe that's where they lived."
Seems like it. Not a place I would want to spend much time.
She nods quietly and carries on stalking around.
I will then head down into this pit.
Okay. So, Steo, what are you doing down there now?
I think I'm going to move forward with looting the noble. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the only real thing, they wore kind of relatively decent Ambrian armor, but it's obviously torn to shreds because the boar kind of virtually, tore them in half. However, the longsword, it seems to have held up pretty well in here.
Nice. I will appraise it as a military man, but without the specific sword skill.
Yeah, it's a decent make. Not overly ostentatious, but pretty well made.
What kind of price do these things pick up? Should I make a roll for that?
Yeah, sure. Give me a cunning roll, and when you've rolled it, John will tell you how much a longsword sells for.
I need an 11, and I got an 11. I probably
Got
should
an
have
11.
had that a little bit longer for John to complete his control and F.
That's all right. But once John finds that, he'll pop it in the thing, and we'll bring it up. So over by the door, Vikama is now kind of like has set his axe to one side and is leaning against kind of the side of the door and kind of trying to peek around it, and all of a sudden gives kind of puts his arms against it and goes "Urgh!" and gives a shove, and nothing happens, but you probably weren't necessarily all expecting him to do that.
I will give Anton a look like, what are you letting this guy do to that?
Vikama, I think there's probably a different way in. I don't think that this could be brute forced. Askarai, did you find anything in the passages upstairs?
It was disgusting. So I didn't fully investigate, but I would guess it's a passage that just leads around the upstairs chamber and doesn't have anything in it. Perhaps there's more to it, but I'd rather not go that way if we have an option.
So I'm... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Stu.
I'm taking an interest in what Thaler's doing. Is there any kind of point of leverage I could assist him from? Like,
sorry, Vikama, do you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. If you're kind of looking at what he's doing with interest, he will beckon you over.
Yeah, I'll go over and give him a...
He kind of taps near kind of a point near his head and a point near the bottom of the doorway. And he says, there, see? You see that what looks like a kind of old plaster or old kind of mortar has crumbled and is kind of... You see that by his feet there is essentially a small pile of dust.
Okay. So is he trying to just get rid of the rest of this dust, or does he think it's leverage to push the...
I mean, are you going to ask him that?
Yeah. So what do we push? Do we hit? Do we scrape?
He calls out a word in the Odav language. And actually, no, I mean, Anton, anytime I say that he says something in Odav, Anton, you can roll. No, I don't think you need to roll if they're relatively... Yeah, he calls out nephew, and Gadraban starts scaling down on the rope. He turns to you and says, I take this side. You and my nephew take the other side. You push, I pull.
Okay. I'll call over Anton, Askarai, we're going to try something a bit risky here. Do you want to maybe get up the rope just briefly?
Sure. I'm gonna... Yeah, Stu, we'll just watch yourself on that, and I'll motion towards that sort of thin gap that we discussed with Vikama earlier, just because I think Stu is perhaps aware of it, so tell him to be cautious of that.
Vikama kind of grunts at that, gestures at you, and says something to Gadraban. Anton, he says, yes, listen to the priest. Okay. So, Steo, tell me how you're bracing yourself against this.
Oof. So I'm pulling.
No, Vikama is pulling. He's on one side pulling, and you're pushing with Gadraban. So
and
you've
we're
got
pushing...
to kind of arrange the both of you on the one side to kind of try and like roll this, you think is the idea?
That's kind of what I was thinking. So I don't think there's going to be any way to get nice leverage here. So I think I'm just going to try and put my back into it and give it the awkward kind of trying to impart lateral motion from the role playing.
Yeah. Cool. So you turn around and kind of brace your back against it, kind of try and get a grip on the door itself and on the wall around you. Gadraban kind of kneels down by your side and kind of gets his hands under, try and brace it slightly under this to kind of lift and roll. And Vikama has just, obviously, any opportunity for Vikama to strip down to his trousers. He's kind of taken it off. Sort of seems to be kind of gathering himself and kind of like barking things in maybe in Odav. Anton, they're unintelligible noises. He's not actually saying anything. He's just kind of bracing himself up for it and kind of like getting himself psyched up for this. And he stands kind of legs slightly akimbo and kind of takes a grip on the door and starts heaving it back towards him while staying quite clear of that,
slicey hole.
That's the slice in the floor. Steo, can you give me a strength roll, please? Or strong roll, I should say.
Let's go. Target number is 13. Oh, critical failure.
Oh. You sticking with that?
Yep.
That's fine. The three of you are kind of heaving away. You can hear kind of Vikama kind of, he's an expressive guy when he's carrying out a task like this. He's sort of kind of half growling, half roaring as he's trying to pull it back. And you just feel it kind of start to move under your grip. And then you just kind of lose your footing, right? You kind of lose your grip on the floor and just like crash down on top of Gadraban, who kind of knocks to the side and shouts a kind of swear word in Odav, and like kind of scrambles up to his knees, turns to Vikama and says something in Odav. Anton, he says, "It cannot be done." Vikama shakes his head and says, I felt it give." And then turns that this was all in Odav, and then turns to you, Steo, and says, "You could do it. You can do it, old man."
Oh, I'm not going to take that sitting down. I will stand back up and brace myself against it again.
Sure. Give me another strong roll, please.
Oh, come on.
While you're doing that, on Anton and Askarai, have you kind of come up out of the pit now and are kind of like observing this happening?
If we can see the door from out of the pit,
then you absolutely can, yeah. Because there's a couple of torches down there now.
I think that we're sort of watching and perhaps exchanging like a sort of slightly furtive smile at each other when Steo slips over.
Yeah, exactly.
You bastards. So, how did that second strong roll
find
go?
Out. 8. That's an easy success. Target number was 13.
Easy success. You give a heave, and clearly, although it sent you sprawling, something in that last kind of heave that you'd done before you fell over has cracked or loosened something. And with a great creak and a groan and a grind of stone against stone, the thing kind of rolls to one side. Gadraban kind of like sort of lets it go and lets it roll. Vikama kind of tries to hold it in place against the wall, and it rolls to one side and he kind of holds it in place. As you do this, you're so kind of elated with this that at first you don't notice the kind of puff of sort of mildewy smelling green dust that comes out of the slice on the floor and just settles on the surface of the stone just slightly. If it was a trap, it's clearly not quite doing what it's meant to be doing, because while maybe you don't want to touch that stuff, there's not much of it and it seems to be oddly dried out.
Okay, I will grab a torch and see what is going on inside here.
Absolutely.
With increased care, because up until now we've known the place was safe, but now we know it's probably not.
So inside is not a huge chamber, like maybe a 12 foot by 12 foot room. all stone, all unornamented stone, kind of no carvings on the walls or anything like that. Made of the same whitish stone that the rest of the ruin is made from. And at the center of that room is a sort of plinth or pedestal that comes up to kind of chest height, and on it are some things that are glinting, but that you'll have to walk a bit closer to see what they are. Vikama has hefted up his axe again, and he's kind of holding it braced and kind of nods at you. You're the one holding the torch.
Yep, I will. Without crossing the threshold and without being distracted by the plinth, what do I notice about the kind of floor and walls? How likely are there to be traps?
I mean,
after my experience in the Tomb of Dying Dreams,
without careful examination, you can't be absolutely sure. But you know what? Give me a vigilant roll. Give me a vigilant roll. Take a -1 to it because it's quite. You have a torch, but it is dark.
This is going to be difficult. No, that's a big failure. I needed an 8.
Yeah, you really can't tell.
Ascarai.
I will climb down.
I don't mean to use you as a trap detector.
But as a changeling, your life is of less value.
What I was going to say is you have had some good successes in the past, and this is just a little bit too spooky for me to want to run into it.
I will take a look.
Sure. Well, go ahead and give me a vigilant roll at -1 then, please.
Okay. Need 14.
Blatant exploit of the party member with the highest stat there.
No, I have an in-character reason. This is kind of what we're using it for. That and range support.
I got a 10, so I made it.
Okay. Yeah, from what you can see, again, without a full careful examination, you can't be 100% sure, but you can't see anything immediately suspicious in this chamber.
Looks safe enough. Perhaps that hole in the ground and the boar men were all they had.
Strange luck for us if all the traps are on the outside. But I'll take a look. I will bring the torch and take some steps into the room.
Okay. Atop the stone pedestal is a kind of essentially like a little mount to display something on, like a little stone sort of pyramid, as it were, to display something on. And hanging off that, on what appears to be a golden chain, is what looks like an old, ancient, mummified hand dangling on a chain. And the chain literally looks like a chain you would put around your neck. Within the hand, kind of the slightly curled sort of monkey's paw hand of this mummified relic, is what looks like a slightly carved small stone, which, as you get closer to it and kind of like move your torch closer to it, starts to take on an odd orangey kind of glowing sheen. It isn't like implanted in the hand or anything. The hand's just kind of holding it.
I'm no lore master, but this looks cursed.
Can I move into the chamber and get a bit closer to examine it?
Absolutely. Why don't you give me? Unless you're kind of like trying to work out exactly what these things are, that would be a different prolonged roll entirely. But yeah, you can take a closer look if you're willing to go closer than Steo is as well. You can take a very close look.
I was going to say that I've got like ritualist, and I don't know if that would apply in this sense. That was going to be what I asked, because
you know what, I think you can make a roll. I think you absolutely can make a roll. Why don't you give me a cunning roll?
Cunning for this,
yeah, and you know what, you can take a +2 on that because of the nature of where your lore mastery comes from and what this is.
Okay, so I need 13.
Mm-hmm.
I've rolled a 1.
Hey, well. So I'll give you this much on one thing, but not the other. Okay, you've got no idea what that mummified hand is, although your mind immediately draws comparisons Clearly the bodies of ancient Symbaric rulers, mages, something held some value to them and have some kind of like sorcery implanted within them, if the copper crown is anything to go by. You know what that stone is. It's got a kind of very rudimentary sun carved on it. You've seen these before. They're rare. They're like, Water of the Dusk. They're relics, one of the few relics that the Church of Prios kind of encourages to a certain degree and maybe even monetizes to a certain degree. It's called a sunstone, and it has various properties, which are, not without risk in the way that most magical items are not without risk, but are certainly, relatively safe. Would you like to know what those are?
Yeah.
So for a start, if you it's an item that you definitely have to kind of bond yourself to, okay, in the same way that Ephenea bonded herself to Black Gift. And if you do, it has a number of properties. For a start, it gives off a mild warmth. In fact, you don't have to be bonded for that. It always gives off a mild warmth, enough to keep someone warm on an icy winter day. You can also use it to set an object in your sight on fire. You can use it to amplify any kind of fire spells that are used. And you also can release the captured fire spirit within it, which will destroy the artifact. But will basically said fire spirit will obey the person bonded to the artifact for a very limited period of time, which probably is not defined in the tomes of Prios as a scene, but that is what we're kind of talking about. It's not unlike. Do you remember how I talked about the glowing guards in the Tomb of Dying Dreams were kind of oddly familiar to you? There are kind of like theurge and wizardry things that involve kind of the binding of fire spirits. Obviously, a subject quite like close to servants of Prios's heart, and this sunstones are related to that.
Wow. So, do I know anything about the downsides of it?
I mean, the downsides are if you use the things, it gives you temporary corruption, like every other artifact in the game, essentially.
Okay. And the fact that it's being held in this mummified hand, so the hand is on the chain and the stone is in the hand.
Yes.
So, if you were to wear it, you would just put the chain around your neck, and it would still be held by this.
No, you don't think so. It's literally just kind of balanced in the hand. It's not like you don't think it's one item. You think the mummified hand on the chain is one item, and the sunstone is held as another item, as another artifact.
Well, I'll start to relay that information to to everyone else who's down there. My friends, this is an incredibly valuable item, a very powerful artifact that harnesses the power of Prios himself and is of particular interest to the church. I would say that if we return this to Thistlehold and the church there, it could command a pretty price.
That's the stone, not the hand, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I know our luck, and the hand is probably cursed with 1,000 dead spirits or an entire army of ghouls, or, I mean, we could wrap it up.
Vikama has kind of come up behind you all and is peering over your shoulders at it, and he kind of grunts and gets out, kind of reaches into his pocket of his trousers and pulls out a coin, a very kind of small coin. Is it an Orteg? Is that the smallest division of coins in this? And he kind of grunts and says, "Priest, call. Heads or tails?"
Oh, heads.
Okay. Can you give me a die roll? and tell me if you get 1 to 10 or 11 to 20. And we'll go with the Symbaroum ruling, right? So if you get 1 to 10, you've called it correctly.
11.
He kind of shrugs and says, tails, and shows it to you and says, there are two things. We get our choice first. And I think your friend is right. We would rather have this. Leans forward, plucks the sunstone, kind of tosses it, catches it, slips it in his pocket.
Deep intake of breath there.
Okay, we're done here. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to immediately start to back away, both from the chamber and from Vikama himself.
Vikama kind of nudges Steo as he starts to walk out and says, I think rapping is a good idea.
Do we take this or do we leave it for the next Cursed Adventurers group? Do we have enough on our plate?
It was a hard-won artifact.
I think we should wrap it
Okay.
up.
Option 3.
Worth remembering, like, I could apply loads of hideous curses to this thing that you wouldn't even know about, but it's worth noting that while it is dangerous to take things from Symbaroum, not Symbaroum, Davakar, the Copper Crown only went wrong when, they did touch it. And perhaps if you carefully carried this thing, if you are concerned that it may be similar in some way, I would say that there's not like a rule that every mummified bit from like Davakar tries to take over your brain. But if you are concerned about, ultimately, this is to a certain extent what you're here for.
True, but to be somewhat meta in character, that's above my pay grade. Okay, option 1, we leave it. Option 2, we take it. Option 3, and I'm proud of this one, so listen up. We got the map to this location. We go and we sell the map, and we leave this here.
No one will believe us that there's anything of value.
Oh, spooky temple with untold loot, potentially cursed in the middle of the forest. No one will believe us because they've heard 6 other versions of that story this week.
Well, exactly, and 5 of them, there's no temple and there's nothing of value there. We happen to have actually found something. In Thistlehold, everyone is saying they have found the most valuable treasure in Davakar, and how many of them have actually found it?
I would point out that each of you is also carrying something else from a hideous tomb of nightmares, like in your bags right now. So,
Well, the spear hasn't started talking to me yet, and
Sure.
I'm okay with that. I think Steo is kind of happy with his lot. And on that note, okay, Askrai, it sounds like you volunteered.
I think this is, if we're not going to take the things we find, why are we going into tombs?
Well, we got sent here by the Auto Magic because we burnt one of their posh books.
We
But
didn't get
that's
sent into this tomb. We got sent to another tomb.
This is a tomb of opportunity, my friend. And the
Exactly.
opportunity is right in front of you. In front of you.
I need to find some, I guess I have some kind of cloth or thing in my...
Yeah, I think you
Anton
have
might
like
be able to spare
a
some more of his
sack
robe.
or a cloak. You have like a sack or something like that. I can say, and you can. It's definitely it's not massive. It's definitely easy. You could take your dagger and kind of.
Yeah, I'll take like some kind of cloth, maybe like some spare clothes or something, hook it on the end of my dagger, drop it into this thing, tighten it up, and
Sure. Shove that mummified hand jewelry into your backpack.
Right. If that ghost hand starts talking to you, please tell us, yeah? No more friends getting set on fire and then crushed. I've had enough.
yes, I'll be careful. If something strange happens, I will throw it away. But
Right. Let's get out of here before the army of ghouls arrives.
Sure.
I am going to also try and grab that great sword and kind of
Yeah, sure. I think you can carry it as well. Like you're starting to reach the limits of what you can bundle on your back, but a longsword isn't that heavy, so I think that's absolutely fine for you to put on your back. Yeah, John says a bastard sword is 50 thaler, so it's a bastard sword. So
Nice.
Nice. If we can ever find a place to sell it.
Non-historical name for it, but a longsword is also non-historical. But never mind.
So just for my, is this definitely an Ambrian sword, or is it our
absolutely
Albertor?
Oh yeah. I mean, it certainly could be old enough to be in have been made in Albertor. Certainly, nobility frequently keeps swords for through generations.
Okay, so it might still have some antique value. Okay, let's get while the going is good.
As you all kind of scramble up from the pit, you see kind of ahead of you the two barbarians and the ranger are kind of waiting at that doorway for you, kind of like getting packs back on shoulders and kind of that kind of thing. And as you come out, they kind of nod and start striding south again. The decision of maybe not camping near this ruin is probably one that instinctively occurs to all of you. And you see, as you kind of stride it, you can see that the snow that was drifting down through the last session is kind of breaking, and there's a kind of stark dryness to the air that, hey, probably means that your journey is going to not be one of wading through a lot of snow immediately, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
And with that, you're walking southeast. I believe we said you're making for kind of the River Eodor, and I think we said that you were marching, but not kind of death marching. So you're intending to make the distance in 5 days, one of which has already passed. And you know what? Another 2 days pass, more or less without incident. Obviously, you have a couple of moments where you have to stop and listen to the noises of the forest around you to make sure you're not being stalked by some horrific creature. And there are kind of odd noises at night and through the day, but nothing kind of impedes you on this journey. Now, this counts as a kind of downtime, I'd say. And I believe there were at least a couple of things that people wanted to address during said downtimes. Sam, why don't you tell us what Ascarai has been up to practicing their archery whenever you camp?
Yeah. So we're now using some new rules, advanced player rules, advanced player guide.
Yeah,
it has some new abilities in it. So as we camp, Ascarai has just been practicing for hours and hours and has been learning how to shoot his bow faster and a lot faster, about twice as fast.
faster, harder, scooter.
Precisely. Which basically means I have taken the rapid fire ability, which allows me to, if I'm shooting my bow with a combat action, I can also use my movement to take another shot instead of moving, which is nice.
And at higher levels, it becomes even more obscene. I'm just enjoying the idea of every camp, Ascarai is just setting up with a kind of archery target, just kind of like just as fast as possible, just trying to fire those arrows off. But yeah, I believe that's a 10 XP cost for that novice ability, which is ludicrous. That is a novice ability, but as I said before the session, you desperately need to fill the FNA DPS gap.
Yeah.
So
yes, DPSG.
So the next person who'd mentioned something to me, Anton. So you had it in mind. There are a couple of approaches you might take to relieving your current rather bad permanent corruption, although we can consider that stigma to have gone now, because you've got 5 permanent corruption, which is only 2 off your threshold.
Basically means that I just can't really use any of my powers. So yeah, I want to remove some permanent corruption, but the sort of the ritual that I use to do this is called purging fire, and it involves me creating a pyre, I guess, like almost like a funeral pyre, and I have to do some prayers and some chants and sort of psych myself up to it, and then sorry, let me just read out the text. I prepare myself with songs and prayers before climbing onto a burning pyre to cleanse my body of corruption. For each turn I stand in the fire, I suffer 1d6 of damage, and if a resolute minus damage test is passed, 1 point of permanent corruption is removed. If the test fails, the mystic throws itself from the pyre and the ritual is interrupted. Performing the ritual costs 1 point of XP, whether it's successful or not, and the mystic cannot perform the ritual for someone else, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah.
So it's pretty high cost in that it costs an XP, and it might not even work.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I guess how this works, if I've understood this correctly, is that I roll a d6, and then I have to roll my resolute against that. So, like, I guess if my resolute is 13, if I roll a 4 on the d6, then I have to roll 9 or below for the resolute
9 or
roll.
under. Yeah.
And then I keep on doing that if I want to, like, if I'm successful, I can keep on doing it. But if I fail, I could fail on the first go. And
you could absolutely fail on the first go, and it's just take some damage, lose an XP.
Yeah. So I think.
However, you do have another way to remove permanent corruption. Yeah,
this is true. So I've got the Water of the Dusk, which is a small vial of that holy water, and I have 4 shots left of that. They're probably not called shots, but that's what I'm calling them.
You have 4 Jello shots of Water of the Dusk.
4 uses left of Water of the Dusk, and that would remove 4 points of permanent corruption, but that seems like an insane waste of that. But what I'm thinking, and sorry for this taking so long, is that I will try and remove this through like purging fire, but if I can't remove any of it through the purging fire, then I might have to drink 1 or 2 shots of that just so I can actually be in any way useful, because otherwise it would be like the next session I have to spend an XP and take time up doing this. So yeah, that was my thinking.
Sure. Now, I guess the only other question is, would Anton carry out this purging fire ritual while traveling through Davokar? And I think both answers are fine. I think it's fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak for your character development, that Anton is probably undergoing a bit of a crisis, not maybe of faith, but of, he's come to this strange place. He's made these friends. He's come to this land of kind of temptation and corruption, and is trying to do Prios's work. But on the way, he's seen awful things. To a certain extent, he's done awful things, and he's seen one of these friends he's made die while in this place, haunted by these titanic, hellish monstrosities that don't seem to have come from any place that has seen the light of Prios touch. So I think it's maybe fair to say that this purging fire might be a thing he's quite desperate to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would say that his faith has definitely been shaken as well, because just the reveal of other demigods and incredible ancient beings that don't have such a physical form, those being in existence has shaken his faith in Prios a little. So
not only being in existence, but being in front of you.
Yeah. So this is
So with that in mind,
he's pretty desperate to do. So yeah, I think he would do it, because I think also just from a survival point of view, I think that he knows that he's on a path towards corruption if he doesn't do something about this, or a path towards abomination.
Yeah, he can feel Prios grace slipping away from him.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think it's fair enough to say that 2 days of travel after the ruin, perhaps we find Anton building a pyre in the forest. Would you do this at the camp?
No, I do it a little bit away from the camp, but I mean, like not so far as like I would be completely isolated in
Sure.
the middle of nowhere.
So, Steo, Ascarai, Anton seems to be building a separate camp. Have you told them what you're doing?
I mean, I will. I am going to tell them. Well,
As you're kind of doing it. Well, that
have
seems
to do
like a
this.
nice scene to roleplay, because you're about to tell them you're about to cast yourself into a fire. So, Steo, Ascarai, maybe we can have you two know, Anton starts to build this fire and starts to explain what he's doing. But I think the three of you can take it away.
This is something new for me, but it's something that I must do, and I do not expect either of you to understand. But I need to restore the light of Prios within myself. I must build this fire, and I must step into it. And I beg of you, do not attempt to save me. Prios will do that.
Steo, let's say Steo, but not Ascarai. Steo, can you give me a cunning roll, please?
I can. In a minute. Tar, I need to get below 11. Get a 6.
You have heard of Theurge is doing this.
Look,
just tales of it, like.
Yeah. Look, I we've all been through a lot, and I don't need to understand. But can I at least offer some help?
You can.
I mean, I don't want to set you on fire, lad. That's not what I'm getting at. You need help building the bonfire.
Anton, just say the word, mate. I'm absolutely there. I've got some petrol of Prios in my bag.
You might be my third favorite member of the party, but seeing as the first favorite's dead,
you can assist in gathering more wood.
Is this safe, Anton? I understand that you are expecting Prios to help you, but it seems, from what I have seen, he is not always there with you to help when you need it. It seems extremely dangerous to risk it like this.
I have trained for this. I know what I'm doing.
it's fine, Ascarai. These lads set themselves on fire twice a week sometimes.
I've just had my midstream Urfons reminder from John. Urfons, your goblin companion, who of course has been with you all the way through this session. Stop doing this. And he is kind of stood over on one side, like leant against a tree, kind of shaking his head, just baffled at the bizarre behavior of humans.
Look, it's fine. It's an Ambrian thing.
I think when the pyre is built, I'll sort of nod at Ascarai and Steo to, retreat to a safe distance and just to leave me to prepare. And at that point, I'll start my songs and my chants and my prayers and
Sure.
close my eyes. And I think, weirdly, I think it would make sense for me to probably be naked for this, because I don't know if my cloak would set fire if I
you don't want to, and then it would be very difficult to put that out.
yeah
And there isn't much robe left to burn, in fairness.
Sure. You said you had your eyes closed for this, so maybe you don't know that Urfons is certainly still there at a distance watching, and the two barbarians and the ranger, Gadraban and Vikama and Volnara, are also gathered around. The barbarians look fascinated by this. Kind of Vikama nudges Steo slightly and says, "What is the priest doing?"
It's a ritual of cleansing. They used to do it. It was a thing before we had to move north.
If it looks like he is dying, I'm going to get him out.
Don't. That's half the point. He knows what he's doing. If it gets out of hand, we can bring him back.
Gadraban kind of glances over at Ascarai and says, "Dying?"
He's about to set himself on fire, as far as I can see.
That's the point. Prios is the Lord of Light and Fire. He's got this.
Vikama kind of turns to you and says, "Is he in his right mind? He knows what he is doing?"
Look, none of us are doing particularly well, but this is not a single moment of madness. This is written. This is known.
Vikama kind of shakes his head and he's kind of looking at Anton in something approaching awe.
Surely you
Kind of
have rituals,
or in
don't you,
shock.
Vikama?
Not this.
I agree with you. This is madness.
So, Anton.
If I just like roll a 6 on the 1d6 and then roll a natural 20, I'm just gonna cry.
Well,
yeah.
here's something I'll say. I think this session is going to have. I know we're kind of paying from an XP reserve here, but I think this session is going to have 2 XP, potentially even 3. So I'll just say, if you want to spend any for rerolls, I think that's cool. But let's see what happens. So Anton, does he just stride into the flames?
No, I sort of see it as like a slow, like almost like a
Like fire walking.
yeah.
Kind of
It's
in
like-
and
it's
out
just-
of it, or just into it?
It just into it, yeah, because I've got to stay there for as long as I
As
need
long
to.
as possible, right?
Yeah.
And how kind of big is this fire burnt up? Like a campfire, or higher?
No, I'm picturing something that's, maybe not like, the Wicker Man or anything like that,
Yeah.
but like something that's, maybe, 6 foot in diameter.
Like a
and,
small bonfire.
a small bonfire, like 3 or 4 foot high. Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, Anton slowly walks into the flames. Anton, can you give me a D6 roll for damage, please?
I will make the scrappiest looking sign of Prios.
Okay, I roll a 1. That's a good
Ooh.
start.
Beautiful. So now you roll your resolute -1, so that's 12, right? Is your resolute 13?
That's right. Jump. Yeah. Okay.
Give it a go.
Oh, fuck, I rolled 17. Okay.
Do you want to roll an XP? Do you want a re-roll by spending an XP?
Yeah, I think I do. Because, I think if
you just do it again, that costs an XP and you take another damage roll.
Yeah. Okay, I'll roll again. 12. Oh my god.
That does it.
What's the
Okay.
number?
That does it, right?
Yeah, that
So-
does it. My resolute is 13, and
So
I
take
rolled a
1 toughness and reduce your permanent corruption by 1.
And my our toughness had probably because we've had like a day's rest.
Oh yeah,
for the last
you
3
can.
days, right?
I think you can safely take your toughness all the way back up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on.
But
3
we're
before.
marching, so we don't get the health regen, or is it only death marching?
No, you don't. No, you don't get the daily health regen if you're marching. No. But how about what toughness were you on before? Sorry, yeah, we didn't really
I was
cover
on
that.
3 before.
3 out of how many?
Out of 10. Sorry, I mean I had 7
taken
left
3.
to go. Yeah.
You've
So I've
taken 3. John says that he thinks it's Death March that doesn't heal, but we'll check. But I don't think it's too important right now. Anyway.
Without wanting to retcon it too much, I think it would be safe to say that Anton knows that this is going to hurt, so he would have healed himself before he did this. So, whether we want to stop now and I do a medicus roll to work out.
I think it's absolutely fine to do that. We'll just hand wave it for the moment, but yeah, that's fine. Or maybe you didn't march. Maybe you were walking to just kind of heal your wounds or whatever. But yeah, another round, another damage roll.
Sorry, hang on a second. Okay, damage roll coming up. 6 falls.
That's
Okay.
a lot more brutal. So that will total you to 7 damage, which takes you to 3 toughness, I believe. So now you have to roll 6 or under to remove another permanent corruption, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, you could You have one more XP for I think you have one more XP for this session, burning a hole. So you could use that for a reroll of the 6, or you could use it for a reroll of this roll you're about to make, or you could say, hell with it, I've done something, so let's go with it.
Well, I'll definitely spend. I think I'll just roll a d20 and see what I get.
Heck, you might get a 6 or under. No, not 6 under, 7 or under, right?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah.
7 would do it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm rolling my 20, and I roll 20, which I don't think is like a fail or anything in a situation.
No. It's not. Well, I kind of interpret them as
but
generally rough, like fumbled fails, as it were. But
okay.
I'm going to say for that, it might not even be. Sorry, what were you about to say?
Oh, I mean, I'm just going to say I'm going to re-roll it anyway.
You're going to re-roll it. Okay,
yeah.
Sure. Spend that extra XP. So you're out of XP now. Your XP reserve is gone.
Yeah. That's a zilch. And I'm rolling again. 9. Damn. Okay.
There we go. There we go. Anton lingers in the flames for kind of a few breaths, and you can see them licking around him, burning his skin, burning his flesh. And then with a sharp cry, kind of casts himself out of it. Still, though, longer than a man should stand in flames and not go up like a torch. And he's kind of like collapsed on the forest floor. Kind of his body is smoking, and you can see burnt patches of flesh over him. Anton, you feel partly but not wholly cleansed. You're also in a considerable amount of pain.
Yeah, I think like looking at the Symbaroum private chat, it appears that like I would have fully healed just by the regular march that we did on the way here. So like now might be a good time to do a medicus roll. Although having said that, like I think now might just be a good time for like a shot of Water of the Dusk anyway, because like I really need to get my permanent corruption is 4 currently. My threshold is 7. Like,
yeah,
it would make sense to do that.
I mean, ideally, your corruption would be at 2, right? Because then you could do 1 power and not risk tripping your.
Yeah, that's it. So, like, just to clarify on that, I go into that kind of like permanent corruption roll when my temporary corruption is equal to my corruption threshold, or when it's over my corruption threshold?
Equal to or over.
Equal to or over. Yeah. So in that case, it needs to be 2.
Yeah.
So I might take 2 shots of this.
Sure. Well, why don't we see how much it heals you for first, and that might help inform your decision.
Okay.
So I think it's maybe safe to say that you gave someone the vial of
Water of the Dusk,
the Water of the Dusk before. Maybe, I don't know, Steo or Ascarai, do you reckon?
Maybe Steo, because he's got the medicus.
Sure. And maybe you're kind of like reaching out one hand, one slightly smoking, scalded hand.
Priests are a different breed. I will pass the vial over to him.
Okay. It's worth noting Water of the Dusk is to sprinkle rather than to knock back, by the way. So, feel free to kind of sprinkle yourself with the Water of the Dusk. Roll a d10 to see how much you heal off that. I would say that, it's John found out forced march means no healing, but we'll just retcon it that you've been walking normally, because it kind of makes sense if some of you were injured and whatever. So you're healed, but it's just going to take a couple more days, like a day, an extra day of walking or so to get to where you're going. It's fine. How'd that healing roll go?
I rolled a 10. I'm fully healed.
You are fully healed, and you can also reduce your temporary corruption, or your permanent corruption, by another 1. So you're now down to 3.
3, yeah.
And drained of XP. Ascarai, the 2 barbarians are staring at Anton with their mouths agape. They're obviously quite taken by this.
Priests.
as Anton kind of, presumably you're like clambering back to your feet after applying the water of the dust to you, Vikama kind of comes over to you completely. I mean, he's obviously a guy who's pretty fine with nakedness, and he comes over to you and is just kind of like almost examining you. He's not reaching out to touch you, but he's kind of looking up and down and around you and just says, "Not a mark." And he's kind of looking at you with eyes wide, very obviously very struck by this.
Bios has shone down on me today.
I will.
Sort of pulls his hand through his long braided beard, just kind of shakes his head and wanders off a bit, but kind of keeps glancing back at you thoughtfully.
I'll shoot a kind of furtive glance at Ascarai and just kind of.
Ascarai will just shake his head. God. Well done, Anton. Seemed to go well. I don't know.
It is better than it was. I could feel the darkness encroaching, and now I feel warmth.
Well, I can imagine you would feel warmth after that. You priests are just nuts.
And you've impressed our companions.
Yeah.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to try and get some work done while there's still some time left in the day. So what Steo's been doing in the evenings on this trip is working with his spear, realizing that the traditional infantry mechanism of fighting is probably not ideal for the situations he's finding himself in. So he's doing some more training and experimentation on different mechanisms to master the spear in maybe a different way than he's used to, which will be foreshadowing something I'm going to drop a load of XP on in a few months.
Excellent. You set yourself off traveling again the next day. Again, Gadravan and Vikama keep kind of stealing glances at Anton, sort of in a furtive fashion, but not a hostile one. And by the time midday has rolled around, Gadravan has asked Anton to tell him some tales of Prios and kind of these things, and probably gives Anton a nice opportunity to start proselytizing to the two barbarians.
That will do his mental health the world of good as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Why don't you give me a persuasive roll, please, Anton? 2,
and I needed 10.
Okay. No commentary on that just yet. We'll feature it moving forwards. So, as you kind of move through the forest this next day, Anton, you're feeling a lot more yourself, a lot more healed. I mean, completely actually healed for a start, and obviously a great deal less corruption than you had. So it's an easier travel, and it's an easier kind of march for everyone. This cleansing that Anton has undergone seems to have revitalized the party a certain amount and given you an odd bit of confidence even in this dark place. Who is anyone scouting particularly ahead? Is anyone kind of lagging particularly behind? Kind of, we go through the order of travel kind of regularly here, but what do we think? Ascarai in front alongside Relnara seems a usual answer, but
probably most likely, unless someone else particularly wants to be.
I think there might be an element of becoming accustomed to our surroundings and maybe starting to be a bit lax for Steo anyway.
Sure, I think that's likely. Maybe Steo lagging slightly behind because he usually takes the rear position.
Yeah.
Okay. Steo, why don't you give me a vigilance check?
It's not very good, my vigilance score. I need to roll under 9. I got a 6.
Hey, there we go. So as you're traveling, you're kind of traveling through a sort of shallow ravine in Davakar, kind of, it's kind of rocky surfaces around you, still covered in underbrush and forest, but still you kind of, there's a certain oppressive nature to the slope sliding up on either side of you. And as usual in Davakar, you essentially don't see the sun most of the day, just slight glints of it through the canopy. And you realize as you walk forward that you've kind of lost a bit of sight of the people ahead of you, which were the two barbarians and Anton. And as you do so, you hear a noise over on your left-hand side, and you kind of just don't stop still, but kind of pause 1 second just to check what you heard. And then you hear it again, and more fully this time.
Quite loudly, my policeman's voice. Who's there? Partially to raise their attention of my party as well.
Anton, you probably heard this.
Can I see anything?
No, you can't actually see Steo. He's a bit over ways behind you and out of sight.
I'm gonna turn to the
barbarians. Are like
barbarians. Yeah,
they have their weapons out and they're kind of like standing braced,
Okay.
and one of them is kind of peering back along the path towards Steo.
Did I hear Steo yell?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's safe to say that you know what, actually, Askarai, you probably will make this, but give me a vigilant roll at +3 to see if you heard him, because you'll be a bit further ahead.
Okay.
But you'll probably make that roll.
Yeah, I need 18. I got a 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, everyone heard it.
I might not die.
I will definitely start to double back, where maybe get my bow out.
Sure. Anton?
I guess if Askarai's doubling back and Steo's behind me, I'm able to stay where I am so that all the party kind of joins together. But yeah, with my flail out.
Sure. You can't see Askarai ahead of you either. Like the three groups are, because Relnar and Askarai kind of have to go ahead slightly out of sight. So are you kind of waiting in place, or are you kind of moving back towards where Steo is? You won't be kind of aware at first of what Askarai's doing.
Yeah, I think probably heading back towards Steo then, and calling out Steo.
Okay.
I will ready my spear and carefully, as though preparing for the forest itself to attack me, cross-step my way along the path back towards where the group is ahead of me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to need someone to make a roll here. And we haven't used sort of ambushy stuff for a while, have we? So Askarai, can you give me a vigilant roll, please, with a modifier of -5, please?
Okay. I need a 10 still, so I got a 9.
There we go. Okay. You see movement on the very edge of your vision, like a fluttering, a flickering, and kind of just behind you, moving quite fast. Relnara, kind of, as you turn, you didn't note to see if she was kind of like moving with you. And as you've moved back towards the group, basically they weren't where you thought they would be. Perhaps they've moved back to move back towards Steo. I'm assuming you're going to turn and see what this motion is.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look at whatever I just saw moving.
Okay. So the first thing you see as you turn is literally almost immediately in front of your face is about 1.5 foot, 2 foot little creature, kind of skeletal and kind of hunched and oddly angled with its limbs, humanoid with very sharp looking fangs, covered in oddly slick and patchy black fur, with little kind of almost like dragonfly wings sprouting from its back. it takes you the briefest of seconds to register that it's only, about that height, because it is right in front of your face and kind of like coming at you with odd, long, little, horrible claws and its fangs. But because you got to see it, we will go into initiative rather than it getting a free attack on you or anything. You also notice behind it fluttering kind of odd, they kind of fly through the air, kind of like just desperately flapping and rising and then dropping again. There are quite a few others of them, but one of them is in your face. John, can we have the initiative, please? So, Askarai, what's happening here?
Can I use Beast Law to find out if I know what these things are?
Yeah, you absolutely can, and give it a roll.
So I need to roll cunning. My cunning is 10. I got a 13.
Boo.
No, you got no idea what this horrific little wretched beast is.
Well,
it's safe to say it's not friendly.
Yeah. I had my bow out, but is it too close to shoot, do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely too close to shoot this one, but you can get your dagger. Like, I'm happy for you to get your dagger. I think you can get your dagger out as a free action anyway, can't you?
Yeah,
short.
I think we looked that up a session or two ago. Okay, in that case, I'm just going to get my dagger out and swipe at this thing.
Yeah, fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So give me an attack roll for that. No mod. Actually, yes. Sorry, a modifier of -3 for their defense.
Okay, I will use feint, so I need 12 instead of -3. I got a 20.
Oh no!
So that, my friend, is a fumbled attack. So with that in mind, you take a free attack from it. Before its round. So can you roll your defense, please, with no modifier?
Okay, that is, I think, 12. Let me double check. 13. And I get a 9, so I make it.
Yeah, it's basically, it's in your face and it's kind of fluttering or flapping its way towards you, giggling and shrieking, and you just kind of like dive backwards and dive out of the way, and it kind of goes past you like that. It also occurs to me I should probably mention where Urfons is in this group, because he exists. So Urfons was with the barbarians and Tom, of course he was. So next up is Relnara. We have no idea what she's doing or what's happening to her. So next up is the fairies, and I think it's safe to say that I think a good 3 of them can take another go at Askarai while they're kind of flapping around him and trying to scratch at him and bite him with their horrible wee appendages. So why don't you give me 3 unmodified defense rolls, please, Askarai. Although actually I imagine one of them is probably flanking you. So which is an advantage, right? So that's give me 2 normal defense rolls first and then one with a -2. Oh, you're on mute, I think, friend.
Yes. So the first one I made, I got a 12. Then I got a 5. So I made the first 2. And now the one where I need 11, I got a 14. So I don't make that one.
Okay. So you weave around the first 2 of them, but the one behind you kind of claws its way onto your back and is just kind of trying desperately to bite into the skin and flesh at the back of your neck. Can you give me an armor roll, please?
Yep, it's just a D4.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 2.
Okay. It definitely does. It kind of gnaws its way through your leather collar, and you feel it nipping and taking horrible bits out of the back of your neck. You also feel the back of your neck like an odd tingling sensation, and like it oddly kind of reminds you of kind of the almost the tang and the smell the that you feel in your nose and your back of your throat when you're fighting the wretched, horrible things of Davokar that you've fought over the last year or so. Roll a d4.
Okay. This seems bad. I got a 2.
Okay, take 2 temporary corruption, please.
Oh. Okay.
And 1
Christ.
toughness.
Okay.
Yeah, right? And yeah, 1 toughness, please.
Okay. Where even is my corruption to take? Ah, here it is. Okay.
Yeah. So next we have Vikama. I think it's safe to say that people have kind of heard Ascarai at this point. You didn't mention that you were like calling out for the others, I don't think, but I think it's safe to say that you did, right?
I don't know if I'd have called out for people, but I'd have made like angry fighting noises.
Yeah. Yeah, get off! And
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Vikama is going to start dashing back towards where Ascarai is. And I'm going to say he has enough movement to kind of arrive on the scene but not make an attack. Earthons is going to do exactly the same thing. Gadraban is going to do exactly the same thing. Are Steel and Anton going to do exactly the same thing? Kind of dash to where Ascarai is crying out and there are these odd noises.
Assuming there's nothing coming for me, yes.
There doesn't seem to be. You can't see anything.
Yeah, so I'll move forward and try and get up with the group then.
Okay. Anton, the same?
Yeah, same. If there's no immediate threat, and I will look around to see, but yeah, if there's no
Absolutely.
immediate threat, I'll move towards where I hear those noises.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you dash into, it's not a clearing, but along the path where you are. And Ascarai is there. It's tough for you to count. There's less than 10 of them, but it's getting towards that number. These wretched little giggling, shrieking creatures bobbing through the air around him. One is kind of on his shoulder, as I say, kind of into the back of his neck, and the others are kind of like scratching away at them, and a couple of them sort of break off from the group and kind of seem to be kind of, half kind of wading through the air towards you, making odd little disturbing noises. Ascarai, you're first, friend. And still on mute.
Okay, you're on mute.
I don't know why I keep being on mute. I don't know how I would even do this, but I would definitely attempt to stab the one that's on my back.
Seems like a good idea. Just grab your knife and just...
That seems the only sensible thing to do, even though it's also
Sure.
just a horrible idea. But
Well, I think that's fair. Do you want to give me an attack roll at -3, please? Then.
okay, I need a 12. I got 11. Nice.
Okay. Cool. So give me a damage roll, please, and I don't need to modify that for armor because they don't have any.
Nice. That is a D6 and a D4. I got 7.
You got 7. Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now that is way over their pain threshold. So do you want to get another attack, or do you want to kind of batter it out of the air?
I definitely want to get another attack.
Yeah, you definitely do. Give me that attack straight away.
Okay, so again, I got an 8. Definitely enough.
Yeah.
And the damage, I got 4.
Okay, yeah. You kind of stab sort of over your shoulder, desperately trying to get the thing off, and you manage to kind of almost hook it on the end of your blade, pull it forward, and then, I mean, the thing is like, it's like someone said in chat, like, oh, it's creepy doll. They are doll sized. They're just like this big. And as the thing's kind of thrashing around, kind of half impaled on your blade, you just kind of grab its horrible, spindly, furry legs and just kind of impale the thing fully, and it kind of goes and then flops off onto the forest floor, where its wings kind of flitter a bit horribly before it goes still. So that's dead. 1 down.
Very good.
So Relnara kind of bursts into the where this fight is going on, and just kind of strings her bow, and fires an arrow, and it just kind of whistles through the flapping pack of them and doesn't manage to hit anything. And now it's the fairies' turn. So 3 of them are again going to attack Ascarai. So Ascarai, can you give me, please, those defense rolls again, please? 2 of them as normal, and then 1 with a -2.
Okay. Got an 18, so that's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
A 9, so I made that one, and then the one at -2, I got a 7. So I
still just one got through. Give me an armor roll then, please. I didn't realize your armor was so low.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I got a 2 again.
Okay. In that case, I'm afraid take another 1 toughness and give me another D4.
Oof. This could be bad if I get a 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take my toughness first. Please no 4s. I got a 4.
Does that take you to your corruption threshold or anything?
What did I get? But I got 2 before, so I think it takes me exactly to my corruption threshold.
Do you want to spend an XP and re-roll that?
What is it going to give me? It's going to give me a.
It will give you D4 permanent corruption.
That is bad.
And a stigma, but for the next 24 hours or so. But that's not too much of a problem unless you're like, around polite society. I
think I will re-roll. Just it seems like getting rid of corruption is more expensive than 1 XP.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll try. And I got a 2 this time.
That's much better. That's much better. So cool, yeah, take another toughness damage and that extra temporary corruption. So I think we will also have we'll have 3 of them attacking. You know what? The 2 barbarians are probably the ones who burst onto the scene with the most enthusiasm, right? As well as Urfons as well. So what we'll do is we'll so those 3 are there. We'll put we'll put 2 on Vikama and 2 on Gadraban. How about that? And they are kind of attacking them. And yeah, at the moment they don't seem to be causing too much damage to them. You can see the 2 barbarians, like Gadraban kind of curses and swats one off his shoulder where it's left sort of like quite deep rake marks down the side of it. But otherwise they seem to be dealing with them fairly well. And as you watch, Gadraban kind of like swings. Well, it was Vikama first, isn't it? Vikama just chops one of them out of the air, kind of like one great swing from his axe, and like one of the fairy creatures, it's not there anymore. It's just chunks spread over the forest floor. Gadraban has also managed to kind of wound one of them, which is sort of still cackling, but kind of flapping madly in the air with one of its arms on the floor. Let's say Urfons is going to attack one of the ones that's on Ascarai. And he is going to kind of, he's not doing his usual kind of leaping through the air and spinning with, in this kind of relatively close environment of the forest of these odd flapping things. He basically kind of dashes forward around Ascarai and he's almost kind of ignoring Ascarai and just waiting for his moment, and then impales one of them and casts it off his sword onto the ground. And Steo.
So Ascarai is trouble-free at this point, yeah?
No, he still has 2 of them attacking him.
But the ones attacking the barbarians are probably closer to me, is that right?
Yes, they will be closer to you, yeah.
Okay, I will go and get a flanking position on one of those, probably the one next to the younger barbarian, because I have kind of a protection complex.
Sure,
and
especially
I will pick...
for young redheads. Sounds dodgier than it is, but
super dodgy.
So one of the ones flapping around Gadraban is wounded. Are you going for the wounded one or the whole one?
I will attack the whole one in the hope that I can bring its attention to me, actually.
Sure. Then give me an attack roll at -3, please.
Yay!
Yay!
Needed a 12, got an 8.
So give me your damage roll, and don't forget your spear now has
+1.
+1 on it.
For
Deep impact, right?
Yeah. So D10 is a 2 +1. Oh,
Okay.
God.
That still hits its pain threshold.
Yikes.
Yeah, they are not tough little things. So would you like to knock it to the forest floor, or would you like another attack?
I'm going to go for another attack.
I think that's sensible. So again, and don't forget, I believe you also get +1 on your rolls, right? Or
I
+1
do,
on your
actually.
stat for precise. So it's your accurate
So I need to
+1.
get lower than 15, 14, 13, 12, 13.
Yes.
9!
Yay! Damage roll.
Damage. 7 +1, 8.
8.
Oof, finally.
Yeah. You kind of slash at the thing as it's flapping around Gadraban and sort of knock it almost like spinning in the air sideways like a mad little child's toy whirling round and round while it's kind of like just going mad in the air. And then you kind of wait for your moment like Earth once did and just skewer the thing on the end of your spear.
Satisfying.
Anton. Holy Aura, Blessed Shield.
I think not. Yeah, it's sorely tempting, but that's just tempting the dice gods with some awful rolls. Because if I roll a d4 for my temporary corruption and roll a 4, then I've instantly just undone all of the hard work that I've already done.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm just gonna flail.
I was absolutely being facetious.
Yes, I realise that now.
So there's 2 still flapping around Askarai, and there's 1 on Vikama and a wounded one on Gadraban.
I'll wade in and try and maybe could I flank one around Askarai?
Yeah, you absolutely can. It may turn on you by kind of its next round, but like you can initially get a flank in on it. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Cool. So give me an attack then at so it's a -3 for its defense, but because you're flanking, it's at a +2. So an attack roll at -1 is what we're looking for here.
So roll at -1, and yeah, it's still going to be quite tough for me. This. No, I don't make it. I rolled a 12, and I needed a 6.
No problem. Anton strides forward, and maybe still a bit that flesh and skin is still a bit stiff from knitting itself together after casting yourself in the pyre, and your flailing goes wild. I mean, these are dexterous little bastards anyway, so maybe to be expected. Askarai, we're back round to you, friend. I don't know why I specifically keep calling Sam friend, but no one else. Sam's my only friend.
I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. Unless it's because you're about to brutally murder me to death. But
hey,
I am just gonna desperately swing at one of these horrible little creatures again.
They are horrible, aren't they? So yeah, go for it. So that's an attack at -3. Both of them facing you. There's no difference between them, but neither of them are wounded.
I got a 6, so I made it. And then it's the D6 and the D4. I got 8.
8. So yeah, that is again well over its pain threshold. So do you want another attack?
Yes, definitely. And I got an 8 on the second attack, and the damage 5.
Yeah. So basically, you kind of slash out with the thing in the air, kind of half, carve a huge. Maybe one of its legs comes off, and kind of with a horrible light splatting noise, like comes to it hits the leaves underneath you, and then it's kind of like flapping in the air, maybe not able to properly orient itself with one of its legs gone. You slash out again, and the bottom half of it just comes off, and with a bunch of little stinking entrails, and it kind of squeaks a bit and flaps around a bit more, and then crashes off to one side into a bush.
Good.
I hate these things. They're horrible. The description of them is horrible. I'm inflicting as much nastiness to them as possible. So it's Relnara's turn again. God, why do I give myself so many NPCs to fight with? I've done this to myself, by the way. I've made these people up. They're not part of a pre-written story. But Relnara is going to fire her kind of loose an arrow, and she's going to loose an arrow at the one that is fighting, probably the one who's still fighting Ascarai, and the arrow kind of pierces it, and it's sort of flapping uncomfortably round in the air with an arrow sort of transfixing through its torso, but kind of still giggling and screeching and desperately trying to get at your face with its claws. Fun. And it's going to try and do that right now. So give me a defense roll, please, Ascarai.
Okay.
At just standard.
The 13. I got a 1.
Nice.
Hey, you know what that means? You get a free attack on it, right? I think that's what that means. Yeah, perfect defense. Yeah, you get a free attack on the horrible little toad. Shouldn't say toad, then we'll confuse it for all the actual toad monsters in this game.
I got a 2 on my attack roll.
There we go. You want to give me a damage roll?
Damage is 5.
Damage is 5. So yeah, you got over its pain threshold. So do you want to get another free attack on it?
Yes, please let me make
Yes.
this. This would be so nice. Oh, I got another 2.
What?
And it actually doesn't matter what you roll for damage because it only has 1 toughness left. But roll it anyway, just for
I got
funsies.
8 damage.
Okay. What you do, you kind of slashing out, and it weaves back away from your knife slashes, sort of taunting you and giggling at you, still like wobbling in the air with this arrow through its body. And then you just kind of lose your temper with it, in as much as you have any temper left for these things. You reach out and you grab the arrow that's stuck through it, and you swing around and just batter the thing against a tree, and it kind of just erupts open. With a horrible stinking splash.
Good.
Good.
I think we can fairly say, by the way, that Vikama and Gadraban, kind of Vikama literally grabs the last one fluttering around him with his offhand and just squeezes it until there's crunching and splatting sounds. And Gadraban kind of steps back from the one remaining one and just kind of batters it out of the air with his shield, and then on the floor until the squeaking stops.
Little bit traumatized.
Yeah, that fairy fight is done.
Yikes. What were those little bastard things?
Relnara kind of steps forward and kind of gets her arrow out from where it's fallen with bits of the creature still on it, and strips them off, and stands up and says, "Elves," puts the arrow back in a quiver and starts walking forwards. You get a distinct sense that she's seen this shit before.
I just, for the record, let's never leave Thistlehold again. If we get back, trudge off after her. Well, not after her, but trudge off, kind of.
Sure.
Still
That's right.
breathing.
You can strip that temporary corruption off, by the way.
Okay, nice. I'm also just gonna kick one of these bodies away.
Spitefully.
Yeah, very spitefully.
So, you carry on walking forward. Is there anything we want to particularly cover during the rest of your journey? I think we kind of settled on a rough journey time of 6 days to sort of get to near where this party of the 2 barbarians and Relnara was going. Is there anything you want to particularly cover, or any kind of conversations or role playing you want to have? Otherwise, we'll kind of move forward to the end of this journey, really.
I think one conversation that we could have is about like what our intentions are with some of the artifacts that we took from the Tomb of Dying Dreams, because we haven't really talked about that, like because I mean, Steo's got a chest of coins, I think, or a chest of some treasure.
I think that's absolutely a fair question. And while like examining the more occult seeming of the items to sort of get a good grip on what they are and what they might do, might be kind of, you know what, I think, you know what, I should know this. I don't know exactly what the rules are for recognizing what items do, but I would assume it would be something associated with Lawmaster.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't precisely know what we do with that, but we could certainly have a closer examination of them, and I've got kind of more detailed descriptions of them here, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. Who wants to go first?
I'd take a look at my cask of coins one night in a surreptitious manner.
Yeah, yours is a pretty goddamn easy one of them. You look through it, and Steve, there are a lot of Symbarian gold coins in this.
Are we talking one heavy plate suit of armor's worth?
You give me a cunning roll. Because you've seen artifacts and stuff come in and out. Steo, you think these coins are worth 700 thaler?
I'm just going to not think about that for a while.
That doesn't mean that's what you're going to sell them for.
Yeah.
You know, you probably sell them for less than what they're valued at, but that's a lot.
Yikes! I'm not even going to mention that right now. We're going to save that until we're all sat in
with a drink in hand.
Yeah, with the drink in hand when all this blows over.
Yeah. So John's popped some information about identification of artifacts. Which site and Lawmaster can be used to understand an artifact, what powers it has, and any risks that might come from being bound to it. Of course, a character that becomes bound to an artifact will immediately become aware of its powers and disadvantages. Being bound to an artifact costs either an XP or a point of permanent corruption. However, once an artifact is bound to a player's character, it is too late for the player to change their mind. Any possible negative effects of the binding will strike at the cha, which presumably goes on to say character. So yeah, with that in mind, that's the rule. So the other two are things that require comprehension in some sense. So well, obviously Antom's gonna look at what he's taken himself for a start. That codex. So do you want to give me a cunning roll for that, please? And you know what? You've had a couple of days to look at it, and also it's not a terribly complicated thing. So why don't you add a +3 to that for me while my mouse turns itself off for no reason?
I don't make it. I rolled a 19.
Okay. Well, it's safe to say then that you do not immediately comprehend what is contained within that codex tome. As for the thing, this has literally just gone. My mouse. That's very handy. So the cloak that Ascarai took. Do you think it's the kind of thing that this has really gone? That's exciting. I literally can't proceed with this next bit unless I get this working.
While you're sorting that out, are you anticipating that Antom does like a Lawmaster check on the cloak?
I mean, maybe, but it depends if
I guess if Ascarai wants me to do that. Yeah,
I think Ascarai probably at night would have spent some time like looking at this. I think it's like a cloak or a cape thing himself, with just like looking at what it is, with no real hope of figuring out what it does. And maybe after a few nights, as would say to Antom, like, Jenny, what do you think this might be?
Well, for a start, because evidently it was my battery, because it's now working, shall I describe this cloak to you in a bit more detail? It is a rainbow shimmering cloak of what seems to be lindworm skin, lindworm being a large reptilian creature from Davakar. That's it. The rest of it is details. So it's like it's rainbow shimmering, but they're green scales, right? I think that was in the description originally from the cloak from the tomb. Just find it. Yes, it is a hypnotic green glittering cape. So yeah, they're kind of green scales that shimmer like a rainbow sheen, like oil or something like that, or mother of pearl. Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I probably would have looked at it a bit myself, just tried to figure out what it might be like physically, and then probably after a few nights asked Anton about what he thinks of it, basically.
Do you want to make that cunning roll, Mike?
I very much want to do that, but I have not done that. I rolled a 16, which is not good enough for me.
Yeah, you've got no clue, you're afraid. One thing I will give you after you examine it, and maybe this would have been a handy thing to know before the fairy fight, is that even without binding it to you, it's a very strong kind of material. These scales act effectively as scale armor, and even without binding it to you, it will give you a +1 d4 armor bonus if it's worn on top of other armor.
Ooh, feisty.
In that case, I might just wear it.
Seems like, yeah, you won't, like, unless the negative properties are horrendous, they won't apply to you unless, like, if there are any, maybe there aren't. Until you bind yourself to it, right? And as I say, the moment you bind yourself to it, I will tell you what the properties of it are. But you have to spend either an XP or gain a point of permanent corruption in order to bind it to yourself. So you let me know if and when you want to do that.
Okay. For now, I'll just wear it normally till we get back to Dissolve, maybe.
Absolutely. So, unless there was anything else, we'll move towards a scene to wrap up this session, I think. So you've been traveling to the southeast now for about 6 days, and you can feel kind of you from your traveling companions, Gadraban and Vikama and Rilnara, you can feel their kind of anticipation that you should be approaching their destination, this place they've talked of where claims can be staked and treasure can be dug from a hill. And you eventually find yourself, and there's very little kind of warning of it, you don't really hear the river ahead of you, but you emerge onto a riverbank, a river much further south than the Malgamore. This is the Eodor River. I say without any true confidence, but I think it's
Eonor
River. Thank you, Christopher. It's a bit more slow-moving than the Malgamore was, but looks, I mean, roughly the same. The forest is a little bit more open, a little bit more light here, but otherwise, you really, you'd struggle to tell the difference between the Malgamore River you've left behind you a week ago and the Eonor River ahead of you now. But the three you are with kind of look very pleased with themselves and turn and start traveling eastward along the riverbank. And within just a few minutes of this, Relnara kind of comes to a halt. Askaray, you're probably nearby her.
What is it?
Not sure. Askaray, can you give me a vigilant roll?
Yes. I got a 9, which makes it.
Okay. There are 2 or 3 individuals stood quite near you in the forest, a short way to the north. Maybe not far at all, maybe 15 or 20 feet away. They seem to be kind of just standing and waiting.
From where I am, can I look to see if they are Ambrian barbarian elves?
Yeah, you know what? Give me another vigilant roll at -3.
Okay. Need a 12. I got a 2.
You'd stake your reputation that they are clad in the traditional garb of barbarian clan warriors.
Okay. I will.
The others are kind of caught up with you now as you're stood there.
I'll probably turn to Gadraban and Vikama and say, "Do you think they're Odav?" Like gesturing in the direction.
Vikama shrugs and calls something out in Odaf. Anton, he's calling out a greeting. A voice replies, and a few moments later, 3 barbarian warriors, well armed, kind of looking like seasoned warriors, step out from the trees. Not aggressively, like warily, certainly, but not aggressively. Vikama speaks a few words to them, and they respond. Anton, it takes you a moment because you're expecting them to respond in Odav. They are not responding in Odav. They are responding in the language of another barbarian clan, the barbarian clan called the Karohar. And they specifically would be called Carrots rather than, Odavs. And they're speaking in Carrot, which Vikama seems to kind of understand, but asks a few times again for them to clarify before he turns around and says, "We are near the place. They will let us pass, but they warn they will not let us out again. They say there are people from the south there, dozens from them. They also say this land is taboo. Those who go in are not allowed to come out on pain of death." He kind of shoulders his axe, shrugs, and walks past them. Walks east along the riverbank towards his destination. Gadruban follows closely behind him. Relnara sort of looks around at the Carrots, looks ahead at her 2 companions walking off, seemingly relatively unconcerned with this, and sort of glances at you guys briefly, and then walks on. Irfons kind of looks around at the 3 of you and says, "What are we doing?"
Are we okay with that? Are we gonna roll this forest's dice once more? And if there's already Ambrians up there,
Yeah, I mean, the Carrots say that you can go in.
yeah, it's the getting out bit that's my primary
Just
concern
want you
here.
don't want you coming out again.
The
Can
The
we-
Carrots are kind of looking at you, kind of unconcerned, very unreadable. Stern looks on their faces.
Is there an obvious sort of other path, if you want to skirt around their lands?
No, this is there's no kind of pathway. As you're just walking along a riverbank essentially.
Look, we can draw the line here. If we just go basically straight south, we break the forest in 2 days max. If my understanding of where we are on this river is right, and it runs parallel to the break line of the forest, it can't be that wrong.
Irfon says, on the other hand, if this site is on a river, we might be able to get a boat out of here.
Yeah. So the territory these guys are defining, does it cross the river, or is it all on
You
one bank?
really have no idea. I mean, you can ask them. I mean, maybe Anton can ask them.
Yeah, should I just ask my companions and I want to go south. We head back to our lands, and we don't want to cause any harm to you or your people.
The one who was doing the talking to Vikama sort of looks a little taken aback that you can speak Carrot, or at least a very rough approximation of Carrot, and says, "The land is taboo. Here, north of the river, south of the river, for a few miles in every direction."
So
You can pass, but we will not let you out. Yeah, if you want any more detail off him, we're going to need a cunning roll for a more detailed conversation.
Okay.
I think Relnara, Vikama, they clearly think they'll be able to leave one way or another. If we go with them, we can probably somehow get out with them.
Irfons kind of looks up at the 3 of you and says, "These barbarians seem to think there were dozens of Ambrians there." They can't keep everyone in.
Oh, I hate rolling the dice. We've taken so many risks, but you're right. If we can caravan up, we might stand a better chance of making it out of the forest in one piece. And if we're already on taboo land, there is no getting
if
out.
heading south would also be taboo, then we may as well carry on with the companions we had and who seemed reliable.
Irfon's kind of shrugs, says, "What's one more risk?" Claps Steel on the arm and walks past the carrots.
God, Ephanea, what's one more risk? I'll follow along.
I'm going to assume that Anton and Ascarai are doing the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so you walk past the Karahar barbarians. Ahead of you, on kind of along the riverbank, Vikama, Gadraban, and Relnara are waiting for you, and the group walks forward into the taboo land of the barbarian clan, and that's where we'll finish for the session. I shouldn't bash the desk like that; it probably sounds awful. Yeah, there we go. Great session, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to John for being our, as always, excellent stream manager. Thank you to the players for playing so playably. And thank you to those horrible little fairy bastards for me being able to describe horrible gore being done unto them. If anyone has any questions or comments, please bash them into the comments. That made no sense. Questions or comments, please bash them into the chat. Thank you, Matt. And John will pop them up and we'll talk and answer them. In the meantime, I've got blurby stuff. We've got a bunch of links down below. There's our social media. Check that out. There is our Discord. Why not join us and talk about all things Telling Tales and roleplay? There is our YouTube where all our VODs are stored. And there's our Patreon, should you feel like supporting us. We also run another weekly series, so that is Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. That happens on Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock GMT. It's great. Why not come join us for that? We run some one-shots monthly. The first one of those was the Alien RPG from Fria Ligan. The VODs for that are over on our YouTube, although we also, I believe, have them as highlights here on Twitch. So check those out as well. We're running another one-shot on a week on Saturday, March the 6th, where we're running Troika, which is a really fun indie RPG, surreal science fantasy weirdness. We're looking forward to it a lot. So come join us for that. God, is that all my blurb? I think that's all my blurb. I think that's all my stuff. John, is there anything to pop up for us to discuss? Questions and comments wise? Are all dungeons in Symbaroum quite so deadly? No, not at all. Most of them are much deadlier.
Yeah, we've done the easy one so far, probably.
I think our character's like level 1 and the world has scaled to our level.
Yeah, this is Oblivion. A little bit of a video gaming joke for you if you recall the leveling issues in that particular release.
There's like the forest. We've only even been in like the easy part of the forest. Isn't that right?
In what's called light Davokar, yes.
Yeah.
You absolutely have. You absolutely have. Any kind of things? Matt will never give his players an NPC friend again. It's something I do a lot because I tend to find it's actually really useful to kind of maybe steer players in the right direction, give suggestions for things they've missed and stuff like that. And it's also fun to just like role play a little character. I normally am really, really good at remembering they exist. Irfon's, and I don't understand why. I really like him as a character as well, but he just isn't sticking. So thank you to John for regularly giving me an Irfon's reminder in our private chat. Yeah. There we go. Anything from this session or the previous sessions standing out to our players here? Any things they liked?
Oh, just consistently on the threshold of getting back to Thistlehold safe with all this stuff, but never quite making it, giving me a ridiculous amount of stress.
Like a nightmare, like a waking nightmare.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Just let me cash out. I need to cash out.
Yeah.
We're
like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to the edge of the forest and the carrots are gonna be like, all right, you can leave, but it'll cost you maybe 700 Symbaric coins.
Yeah, 700 thaler is the
think-
is the weird geld. Yeah.
Anton would do anything to hear that bloody minstrel right now. Like,
Oh, those
Yeah.
were brighter days.
Yeah. Great. So cool. Right. Thanks, everyone. Again, thanks, players. Thanks, John. Thanks, viewers. And we'll see you next time for more hot Symbaroum action. We'll be picking up a new little story arc. How fun. How fun. Not for them, but for all of us watching them squirm. So thank you. Farewell.
Bye.